I wanted to do a video about all the places I traveled to this year, and then I'm going to explain how I was able to afford it. So I was going through my list of the trips that I took this year. The places I flew to, I went to Myrtle Beach, went down to Texas to visit Austin and San Antonio. I went to Asheville, North Carolina. Took a day trip. That's just a drive over to Pittsburgh. Went to New Orleans, went to Flagstaff out in Arizona, and I also took a trip to St. Augustine, Florida. Let's review some of those places. The first trip I took, I wanted to do this thing as a solo traveler. I watched this guy on YouTube named Jermaine Ellis. He has a great channel. But he travels internationally, and everything he carries, he does in a backpack. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to put everything in a backpack, mainly because it saves so much money when you travel. You don't have to pay all that extra for baggage. My first trip, I went to Myrtle Beach, and I had some friends in the area, so I did kind of hang out with some friends. That made it a little bit easier. My first time around, I was a little hesitant. I didn't know if I would like doing everything by myself. So I went there, I had a great time. I actually had a better time when I got away from the touristy area of Myrtle Beach. And I think that's when I first learned on these trips. I think I actually prefer doing the more out of the way kind of things. My next trip, I went down to Texas. I had a friend that stayed in Austin, so I spent a little time with my friend there, and then I went to San Antonio. So San Antonio was actually the first place where I did a trip totally by myself. I was really looking forward to San Antonio. I actually liked Austin way better than San Antonio. Austin was just this great liberal town, and there's some saying there about it's kind of like it's okay to be weird. That was like the first place I was able to walk around with my camera, talking to myself and not feeling out of place at all. Everybody there was just super friendly. I really, really loved Austin. From Austin, I drove down to San Antonio, and San Antonio I wasn't that impressed by. I was really not impressed by the Alamo, because I'm expecting this huge, major tourist site, and it's just like a little tiny thing. Real touristy. Walking around the grounds were pretty cool, but actually inside Alamo, I just felt like, it was a tourist trap. And like I said, the more I've traveled, the more I've learned I don't really care for the tourist trap kind of places. My next trip, I went to Asheville, North Carolina. I didn't even really know why. I know I had a friend in the area, and I actually only saw that friend once, saw her at work at a place to work down there. I can't remember the name of it's like a famous joint for breakfast. Maybe I'll put a link to it here. And Asheville, it was cool because it was another real eclectic kind of town where people were walking around, and that's one of my travel videos that I've had the most views, because the title is Asheville, North Carolina, Hipster or Homeless. In Asheville, the way people are dressed and go around there, you have no idea who might be homeless and who could be a millionaire. I really loved it. It was another great, like a small town feel where everybody's super friendly. Really, really, really good food. But my favorite part of that trip, I took a trip up into the mountains. I can't remember the name. It's Max Patch. And it's like this mountaintop, and it's like a bald mountaintop, and you can just see for forever from up there. I got lost on the way out of the mountains. On a mountain road, my GPS wasn't working. It was probably one of the scariest drives I've had in my life. It was the happiest I was ever to see pavement when I finally got off that dirt road. That was a very, very fun trip. I simply loved driving across the Blue Ridge Parkway. And that was one of the first trips where I kind of got off the beaten path, or not even that, just where I didn't have a plan. When I booked my trip to Asheville, I had no idea I was going to go into the Blue Ridge Parkway, but I was close to it, got on it, just drove it for hours and hours. Got to I think what might be the highest place on the Blue Ridge Parkway, got up there, did a little live video, and I loved it. And that's where I think I started to enjoy when I go out to these places, just finding these places with these high elevations on top of mountains. So I really enjoyed the Blue Ridge Parkway. Took a day trip with a friend, went over to Pittsburgh. I stay in Akron, Ohio, so that was just a driving trip, but I had a great time there. Visited this cool cemetery. It's a place where planes fly right across the road. Had some really good food. Went down to, I don't remember, I don't think it's called Three Rivers Park. That's right where the three rivers come together. That was a really fun experience. It was a very hot day, so it was great just hanging out. Went to a place that I called a rape tunnel. You'd have to see that video. I'll probably post links to these videos up here. But I really had a good time in Pittsburgh. Next trip, I went down to New Orleans, or as they say down there, New Orleans. And this was one of those trips, I just went there because of the cost. I had a round trip flight I found for $140 from, I can't remember if I fly to Akron out of Cleveland, Ohio, but round trip, 140 bucks. I'm like, okay, I'm going. It's like, New Orleans wasn't on my list of places I had really planned to go. So I did have my concerns about safety. Would New Orleans be safe? You know, you hear all the horror stories. I stayed, I can't remember if it's called the Uptown or the Garden District. Totally safe. I never felt unsafe at all. They got a great bike share program. There's a street called Magazine Street. That's where I spent a lot of time. I liked it because I felt like it was more local. I'm riding my bike at 2 in the morning, no worries whatsoever. Took a trip down by the Mississippi, and I think I just fell asleep in a park for like a couple hours right in front of the Mississippi, which is another of those things about traveling by myself. When I went, I think it was like 10 in the morning, and I said, I'm gonna go down, catch the ferry to a place called Algiers Point. I don't even think I made it to the ferry till about 4 or 5 in the afternoon, because I was just walking around and just seeing all these things that just I wanted to stop and explore. And I think the difference is people mistake being by yourself as being alone. I don't consider myself traveling alone or doing everything alone, so that just sounds depressing. I'm doing things by myself. I'm traveling by myself. We just have this thing about us. If you want to go see something, like, well, I can't go see it unless I'm with somebody else, or I'm gonna feel stupid. You know what? All those other people there, they don't care about you. After New Orleans, I went out to Arizona. So I flew into Flagstaff, went to the Grand Canyon. I had been there before. I wasn't overly impressed the deeper I got into certain parts of Grand Canyon because it became just way too touristy, and it's just a mob of people. I couldn't enjoy it. I had a much better time on my way to the Grand Canyon. I stopped at some park and there was just nothing there. I made a video about that. I called it The Beauty of Nothingness. Maybe I'll post a link to that one also. And I stayed in Flagstaff, and when I got in at night, it was dark, so I couldn't see, but I woke up in the morning, a half a block from where I'm staying was this mountain, and it was so cool. I went up there the next day. It was freezing up there. It was windy. I think the elevation was like 9,000 feet, but there was no one there, and I was so happy. I went from Flagstaff to Sedona. If you ever get a chance to make that drive, that was simply the most beautiful drive I've ever done in my life, from Flagstaff to Sedona. I enjoyed that drive so much that I did it twice. And like I said, that's one of the things. I didn't plan on going to Sedona twice, but the drive was so beautiful, I did it 2 days. My last trip I took this year, well, I should say last year, because this is 2019. These are about my 2018 travels. I went to St. Augustine, Florida. That was another of those areas, it wasn't what I was expecting. I was thinking St. Augustine, because it's like the oldest city in America, was gonna feel more old, but it felt more like a tourist trap. I was getting frustrated because I had the hardest time finding a place to park. And you know it's a tourist town when I'm on my way to downtown and I pass a Ripley's Believe It or Not museum. As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh no, this is not good. But I spent Christmas Eve there, and I had a blast there on Christmas Eve because everything was open. Being from Ohio, on Christmas Eve, everything's closed. But I was down there was a concert in the park, I'm just walking around, I'm having some hot chocolate, there's people everywhere singing Christmas carols, Santa Claus was on a sleigh. It was an amazing time I had there Christmas Eve. I'll see you in the next video, and if you haven't already, please like, please leave some comments. Most importantly, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell icon. I got some fun trips I'm planning on next year, and hopefully maybe one or two of those will require a passport. All right, guys, sorry to make this so long. I gotta go. I'll see you in the next video.